I hope you are doing well. Now, prepare your exercise book and pen. Today's lesson is about stages of conducting research. There are specific procedures which need to be adhered to when conducting research. The following are stages of conducting research. Number 1, formulation of the research problem. Number 2, literature review. Number 3, formulation of hypothesis. Number 4, pre-survey or reconnaissance. Number 5, research design. Number 6, data collection. Number 7, analysis of data. Number 8, hypothesis testing. Number 9, generalization and interpretation. And number 10, presentation of the results as well as report writing. However, for today's lesson, we will learn about 4 stages of conducting research, which are formulation of the research problem, literature review, formulation of hypothesis, and pre-survey reconnaissance. Number 1, formulation of the research problem. The first stage in conducting research is to select and properly define a research problem. The research problem refers to any difficulty a researcher is experiencing or observing in the society. A research problem is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling question that exists in scholarly literature, in theory or in practice, that points to the need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. This difficulty may be faced by an individual or group of people in certain areas. Let us ask ourselves, alright, after identifying a research problem, the next step is defining it. Now, let us ask ourselves, why do we define research problem? Defining the research problem is the step of research that drives the scientific process. It is the foundation of the research design, from true experiment to case study. It is one of the initial procedures taken in any research. It includes defining the research area and providing a quick indication of the exact definitions of the variables found in the identified problem. When defining a research problem, the following aspects should be observed. 1. Technical terms and words or phrases with special meaning used in the statement of the problem should be clearly defined. Number 2. Basic assumptions relating to the research problem should be clearly stated. Number 3. The suitability of the time period and the sources of data should be considered. Number 4. The scope of the investigation or the limits within which the problem is to be studied must be identified explicitly. Now, let us see the steps in developing a research problem. Step number 1. Statement of the problem in general should be given. Field observation or pilot survey should be done for the purpose of being familiar to what one plans to investigate. Number 2. Understanding the origin and nature of the problem by discussing it with those who first raised it to understand how originally the problem came about. Number 3. Surveying the available literature. There should be sufficient time in reviewing various works relating to the problem which is currently investigated. And number 4 is rephrasing the problem in specific terms and in operational manner. Now, my dear student, let us move to the characteristics of a good research problem. The following are the characteristics of good research problem. First, it should be clear. Second, it should be stated in simple language. Third, it should be specific, that is, clearly related to the intention of the research. Fourth, it should not be too new to get reliable sources of information. Fifth, it should be financially affordable. And last, literature related to the topic should be available. Now, let us proceed. Number 2, literature review. At this stage, the researcher should undertake extensive literature survey or review relating to the problem. This is done through reading various publications to know what other researchers have said about what you are researching on. Here, books, academic journals, magazines, and various reports should be consulted. And there is importance of doing this literature review in research. Literature review is very important in the following ways. It enables the researcher to find out what has been done in the previous studies relating to the current study. This helps to avoid the duplication of concepts, theories, and principles. It enables the researcher to study different theories and principles relating to the identified topic. It helps to identify ways of collecting and analyzing data. It helps the researcher to build a rationale and the need of the study. It explains the relationship that exists between the previous studies and the current study. It saves time by avoiding unexpected difficulties. Number 3, formulation of hypothesis. After extensive literature survey, researcher should state in clear terms the working hypothesis. Hypothesis is defined as a supposition or intellectual guess put forward by a researcher to account for certain facts and used as a basis for further investigations by which it may be proved or not. There are 2 types of hypothesis, as explained in the following section. Type 1 is alternative hypothesis. This shows positive relationship between the causes and effects or outcome. For example, students fail mathematics because of shortage of mathematics teachers. In this type of research title, the researcher's role is to establish whether the relationship between variables is true or not. Type 2, null hypothesis. This is a negative statement in which there is no relationship between the causes and the results or outcomes. For example, the shortage of food and drinking water at Dakawa is not due to drought. Through research, the researcher will establish whether the relationship is true or not. Now, let us see the importance of formulating hypothesis. It is important to formulate hypotheses because it states the researcher's expectations concerning the relationship between the variables in the research problem. It helps to define the research problem. It enables the researcher to collect data which either support the hypothesis or reject it. Qualities of a good hypothesis. A good hypothesis has the following qualities. It should be very specific in the study. It should precisely state the relationship between factors. It should be verifiable. That means it should be able to be tested or supplied by the evidences. It should be consistent. That is to say, it should be related to the known facts. It should be testable using various statistical ways. And lastly, it should be simple and clear. Now, let us have a discussion on variable. What is a variable? Variable is a characteristic that the researcher would like to observe or manipulate in a research. It is used to prove whether or not the results observed are caused by it. For example, one can study the relationship between academic performance and long distance from home to school. The assumption here is that students walking long distance to school might perform poorly because they reach school already very tired. Here, there are two variables, which are long distance and academic performance. One is independent variable. This is also known as explanatory or predictor. It is used to determine its effect on another variable. In the example above, long distance is an independent variable, which may affect the student's performance. Number 2 is dependent variable. This is also used as an outcome influenced by independent treatment or conditions. In the example above, academic performance is a dependent variable which is affected by long distance. Stage number 4 in conducting research is pre-survey or reconnaissance. Pre-survey or reconnaissance refers to a brief survey of the study area that can provide researchers with valuable information to help plan the field data collection. It undertakes observation and the documentation of biophysical characteristics, socio-economic features, issues, problems, threats, and opportunities, and concerns not mentioned in literature or interviews. Pre-survey has the following advantages to the research team. It allows the research team to finalize the selection of the study sites for field data collection, to collect preliminary information on the number and location of the stakeholders, identifying logistic requirements based on local conditions, and make arrangements for field data collection. It helps also refining study area and sites, the objectives and the necessary parameters.
Let's study, be educated, elimu ni kazi. Elimu ni kazi. Let's study, be educated, elimu ni kazi. Elimu ni kazi. Let's study, be educated, elimu ni kazi. Elimu ni kazi. Let's study, be educated.
Well done, student. My student, now I'll give 3 questions that you will have to give answers. Alright, sit properly where you are. Take your exercise book and a pen. Ready? Okay, good. Listen carefully and write these questions. I will repeat 3 times each question. Question number 1. With the 2 examples, give meaning and types of hypothesis. Question number 1. With the 2 examples, give meaning and types of hypothesis. Question number 1. With the 2 examples, give meaning and types of hypothesis. Question number 2. What is the role of research hypothesis in geographical studies? Question number 2. What is the role of research hypothesis in geographical studies? Question number 2. What is the role of research hypothesis in geographical studies? Question number 3. Read carefully the following research title, then identify dependent and independent variables. The title is The Role of Educational Media and Technology in the Academic Performance of Secondary Education Students.
Elimu ni kazi. Let's study, be educated. Elimu ni kazi. Elimu ni kazi. Let's study, be educated. Elimu ni kazi. Elimu ni kazi. Let's study, be educated. Elimu ni kazi. Elimu ni kazi. Let's study, be educated.
Form 4 student, now follow my lead and check your answers. Yes, starting with question number 1, which asked, with 2 examples, give meaning and types of hypothesis. Answers to this question might be as follows. A research hypothesis is a specific, clear, and testable proposition or predictive statement about the possible outcome of a scientific research study based on a particular property of a population, such as presumed differences between groups on a particular variable or relationship between variables. The relationship described in research hypothesis can be positive or negative. Hence, we get alternative and null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis is a type of hypothesis which shows positive relationship between variables. For example, illiteracy in the society causes unemployment. This shows positive relationship between illiteracy and unemployment in that society. So already this is positive relationship between variables. Another type of hypothesis is null hypothesis. This is a type of hypothesis which shows negative or no relationship between variables. It negates relationship between variables. For example, illiteracy has got nothing to do with unemployment in the society. Now, question number 2, which asked, what is the role of research hypothesis in geographical studies? Answers might be as follows. A hypothesis is a statement that defines the relationship between 2 variables. It makes decision for the claims made. It is an educated prediction that explains the observed event. Research hypotheses have the following roles. Number 1, research is conducted under the guidance of hypothesis. Complex problems cannot be solved with a single technique. So, research hypothesis helps to do or to deal with those complexities. The research hypothesis can provide multiple techniques to the researcher to solve complex problems. Number 3, accuracy and precision.